What's going on, everybody? And welcome back for the finale episode of BMF Season 3. This episode is titled Prime Time. Your usual suspects here, Lucas and Nigeria, ready to give you that recap review show of the finale. This is the end, the last and final episode of this season. Not a BMF, because you already know they've been greenlit. But nonetheless, we're here to talk about it, break it all down, do what we usually do. Couple of things to announce. First off, happy Mother's Day to all the beautiful mothers out there watching and supporting us, and even taking time out of their day to flirt with my man Lucas, and if they're not a mother, they're trying to be a mother, because one way or another.
Man, wait a minute. No. Well, never know.
They throwing draws on stage at us, man, and it's virtual.
like 5 heartbeats all of a sudden.
But with that being said, we did promise we were going to have the finale live with you all, but we didn't know that they were going to have a break between episode 9 and episode 10. So I got to tell you all the absolute truth. We were ready to go last week. I ain't going to give you all the information here, but we were ready to go. And then they were like, so by the way, no episode this week. And I was like, between episode 9 and 10, that's the first. But hey, it's STARZ, gotta let them do what they do. We're just here to serve you all, the fans, and get y'all that recap and review show. We just, we go with the punches here with them. But with that being said, we also did get some very exciting news this week that Power Book 2 Ghost, the trailer dropped. Part 1 will be premiering June 7th, and then part 2 premiering September 6th. So I don't have too much more information of that just yet. I got a little bit more, but we're not going to spend time on that. But the point of the matter is, we will be covering Power Book 2 Ghost in its entirety. And with the whole news with the spinoffs and so on, like, listen, I think we can get into this and spend a lot of time, but although that's the conclusion of that, it's still going to be a lot more power to come, folks. So you don't have to worry. We're not losing any work here. We're definitely not losing any sleep. We are losing sleep, shall I say? We're not gaining any sleep. Yeah. So. Yeah, so from one thing to the next, so yeah, BMF, we wrap it up with season 3 tonight. We'll be back for season 4, of course, and beyond. And then for this year, yes, we'll be back for Power Book 2 Ghost. Last thing I'm going to say is keep an eye out on the channel. We're picking up some other shows that we think are interesting. We're the team is, everybody on the team's getting the confidence in now, so we're covering more shows, we're getting more in the groove, and I want you all to support them just like y'all support us. I think we have a dope team of folks that really give you a very unique and perspective insight of these shows. I think we're one of the most diverse outlets out there, and although this is the show that most of you all come here for, or if it's Power, or if it's Snowfall, whatever it may be, definitely show love to the other folks and the other, should I say, teams that we got. Lucas is going to be teaming up with some folks. Me and Lucas are coming back with something else. I'm matching up with some other folks. So like, just show love across the board, because that will mean the utmost to me. And these folks are working hard, and they definitely want to feel that love like y'all show us. So, Lucas, before we get into tonight's episode, I gotta say I'm a little disappointed about one thing about it. There's some things I'm really disappointed about.
I'm about to say just one thing.
Yeah.
BMF was BMFing. That's what I'm saying.
You're right about that. There's a couple of things I'm mad about. There's one thing I cannot wait to talk to you about. But the biggest thing I want to say is I thought that they did some damage control in a way I was not happy about. Well, Deion Sanders being a character in the show, and his son being casted is something they absolutely should have never revealed before. The reason why it's damage control is because I think people might have caught a fit, just like they did with Tupac saying, it doesn't look like him, or da 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 da. And that's whatever you want to believe, whether you think he looked like him or not. And that's Deon's son. So whether you want to say he looks like him or not, I think it was one of those like, let's probably get that out so that we don't get so much of that negative publicity around it once the episode. But I don't agree with that. I don't agree, because
Do you think they picked the wrong son?
I'll get back to that one second. But I think they catered to the audience in the way they shouldn't. They should have catered to the positive side and not the negative side. And I definitely think them. First of all, the title of the show is Prime Time. So I was a little before we got into anything, and before I looked online after we done watched it, I was like, I think I had a thought that what was going to happen was going to happen, but nonetheless, the reveal of Shiloh's right. That's the son name, right?
It was that one.
It was Shiloh. Yes. Yeah. Either way, one way or another, they're both ballers. I'm happy that they got this opportunity. I also, you got to say, like, you're an OG and I'm a little bit younger than you.
Wow.
But it is a beautiful thing that college athletes can do what they can do nowadays. Because man, the NCAA would have been all over this. They would have like, oh no,
he got no strip from him. One thing you're not doing, sir, is getting on TV. We don't care who your dad is. But
yeah, I didn't like them spoiling that.
It was unnecessary to spoil it. It was unnecessary to spoil it. In the end, I don't care who you had to play Deion Sanders. It is what it is. I understand you messed up with Tupac. Everybody understands you messed up with Tupac. But we don't have to make it up with Deion Sanders. Because even if someone said after the fact, he doesn't look like Deion Sanders. Okay. And are you telling me that Little Meech is the same size as Big Meech? Absolutely not. So it didn't matter anyway. Like, I think it's just a good casting that you cast his son to play him. That's a good look. Maybe not the right son. Maybe the other son looks more like him. If you want to get closer to the person who looks more like Deion, but in the end, who cares?
Yeah,
it's Atlanta in the 90s. You know what they was known for? Deion Sanders running back kicks and interceptions on people. Like, it was a perfect correlation to name this episode Primetime.
Yeah,
and who the hell didn't think you would see Deion Sanders? And I'm just mad that he didn't perform Must Be the Money. Like, that's what I was waiting for.
Yeah, I was super excited. Big Deion fan. Even after watching the episode, I was like, man, even though y'all wouldn't see, I was like, should I just throw the Deion's on just to really get into primetime mode? But
I just got some Deion's that they just bought back.
Yeah,
Jones. I just bought them Jones like last week.
Yeah, the LeBron has on the joints. I have the OGs or the retros of, not the OG.
Yeah.
Are they? No, I gotta check.
You got the OGs. If you had the OGs, let's just say your foot has not grown.
Yeah. My foot hasn't grown since middle school. But no, they're the retros. They're the retros. Yeah. Because the way how shoes be corroding nowadays, they're definitely the retros. They would not have survived.
Came out like 94.
Yeah, exactly.
94.
Yeah, exactly. First of all, the one thing I want to say about this season, before we actually get to that episode, I know I'm like ranting a little bit, is they did an amazing job in celebrating, highlighting, educating Atlanta.
Yes.
You could have thought whatever you wanted about Atlanta, but you absolutely learned something about Atlanta one way or another, from the strip club scene to obviously the drugs, the projects, the crime, the Red Dogs, the impact of the Olympics, the cultural impact with music, how athletes, celebrities, drug dealers, all of these people were all basically, and honestly, this is, I ain't gonna say the start, but it's a very pivotal point of where everybody was looking around at everybody else saying, I want to be them. And that's where I would say, like, if you really want to talk about really the birth of how trap music and what trap music is kind of about, it is really about everybody was a rapper saying they was a trapper, and everybody was a trapper thinking they was a rapper, and the athlete was in the middle like, I want to be something. You know what I mean? So I think that this did a really good job in spotlight and giving Atlanta its flowers, which makes me very, very excited to see them really hit other cities to some capacity. I'm not sure where they're going to go with the story next. Obviously, we got a mild indication from the end of this episode, but I would love to see them continue to spotlight these cities, especially if they're not sticking straight to the story and they're using like these cities as like the backdrops to tell and enrich the cities and just fabricate other stories around them, which I'm perfectly fine. We're way off the rails with like the real BMF story.
I'm about to say, did we see the way this episode ended? Like at this point, I don't care where they go to. If they decide to go to Saudi Arabia and drive a Ferrari from one building to the next, I'm perfectly fine at this point. But again, yeah, it is good the way they highlighted Atlanta here and didn't need Jermaine Dupri or 21 Savage to do so. Like I think it's not a bad thing that they do it. It's just that everyone goes to the same people over and over again to talk about this city. And this is a pivotal point when Atlanta started to become the Black Mecca. So it's great that you get to highlight it. You get to show the ups and the downs to not have it watered down the story of this great city and what this city is now. We get to see how it came into fruition. And I think that's the good part of season 3 of BMF is the highlighting of Atlanta. That's the best part of this show, and Lucille. But it's the highlighting of Atlanta and Lucille that are the best parts of this show.
So episode name is Primetime. Obviously having Primetime, Deion Sanders and Meech interaction is definitely something interesting. That's something I've been enjoying about this is these interactions with Meech and other folks. Obviously the Tupac moment was something I never heard. I never knew that Deion and him ever had a thing, but it makes sense. I mean, because they were the top
at the same time.
They were the top people at the time. And also Deion having his own club. I've never heard of that. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not heard of that, but amazingly, it would not be surprising.
It would not surprise me either.
Deion was on just everything at one point in time to Atlanta was Deion Sanders. So it makes perfectly good sense. And Deion was connected with so many different people. Like you got to also keep in mind, it also helps the correlation of Meech in a way with Tupac. Because for people that don't know, Deion Sanders was connected to Death Row because of MC Hammer, who that's how we got Must Be the Money. Like it all revolves around a circle, and all of it came to place in Atlanta, which is a great thing.
I bet you Shiloh is, being able to play his father is obviously an author, but like probably hearing the stories is probably mind blowing to him right now. Obviously, he's balling out at Colorado and the whole culture. Yeah,
be honest. Like you gonna hear just enough, but hey, y'all gonna cut it at a certain point because I can't have them he can't have them wilding like he was in Florida State and when he got to Atlanta.
Yeah, what did you think about his performance though? Like I thought he really nailed his daddy's mannerisms to the T, and
that's the key part here. I don't care how much you look like him. Can you nail him? The same way Lil Meech nails Meech for this show, he nailed his dad there.
Yeah,
like it was a good showing there. Again, I liked it because he's not the most famous son. We know who that one is.
Yeah.
And like Shiloh not being the most famous one, but getting this opportunity, that's a great thing, Joe, because it gets his face out there.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm not saying he's not going to make it to the league, but maybe if he don't. Maybe like, man, I got another pathway.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing of the NIL is that it's just really giving these kids more than one pipeline to
some of them don't need to go to the pros. If I'm gonna make $100 million in college, fuck I need to get hit anymore for? I quit. I'm gonna graduate college and quit. Be like, I'm done. I'm retiring. I've made more than enough money playing college football where I never have to, like, it's like a Caitlin Clark situation. At what point do I say fuck the WNBA? Nah. I made the lifetime in a year. Like, again, that's what I mean by it's great for these students, and Shiloh is a great benefactor here up to the point that those rules are not in place where he couldn't do this. Because if they paid him while he was in college in the old rules, he'd have lost everything by doing this role.
Yeah. You know what? I just quickly looked up. Deion has 3 sons. How the hell did we forget about Deion Sanders Jr.?
Does he play sports?
He's the oldest. He's 30.
That's
but
why.
the thing is, it's because, and I'm they have talent. The talent in Colorado, the celebrity in Colorado has put attention into these young cats in a way that we haven't seen turn back into college sports in a way that you're not at these big schools that automatically brand their talent. Like being at Colorado has made that a destination. Deion bringing the culture, and so much media attention that you are talking about both of the sons. You do know who both of the sons are because of it. But like, let's just say 10 years ago, hell nah. You'll be surprised one day when you hear them in a draft. Like, wait, he had a son? Didn't even know about it. So anyway, I know I get bothered by us talking about other stuff. So anyway, but it was a part of the show. But let's get to the top of the show now. Yeah. So after a week back, we are here now, jumping into the beginning of the episode with we having the brothers younger again. And this is basically where we see T really respecting his brother in terms of being the visionary he is. Yeah, he got his first rock. He says, we out of school, bro. It ain't no future for us in that. Pat about to put us on, which obviously going back into season 1 lets you know exactly how and when that started. In the very, very midst of high school, Pat was like, nah, little homies. I got y'all right here. But T, who was skeptical, but trust his brother. That's the theme of this entire season 2. Is T wanted to be his own boss, wanted to come from under his brother's shadow. But as he learned from Hoop, I think it was Hoop he was talking to, or one of them. Yeah, you don't have to be. That doesn't have to be your means of success. Like, yeah, Meech will always be the face, and if you're going to be under the shadow, you could be under the shadow and still be very successful and out of the way. Which to me was like, finally, we're getting the ideology of both Meech and T and how they truly operated as adults, where Meech was the celebrity, the face. T was the businessman in the shadows that was making things operate. Just was doing a little bit too much on the phones, but
it makes a funny correlation.
But it makes sense now, though.
That's quiet. He's the quiet one. Like, I'm gonna be all about business. I'm not gonna be flashy. I'm not gonna be anything. Who did they get on his phone tap? See, but it makes sense because of that reason. The flashier one is going to be the one always looking over his shoulder.
Yeah.
TA got to the point where he was no longer looking over his shoulder because who the hell was looking at him? And this is just that realization, like, maybe I don't need to be like the man. Like, everybody don't need to be the front-facing person.
Yeah.
Most successful businesses are successful because the person behind the person that you know. Everybody knows Steve Jobs, but Steve Jobs wasn't creating shit for Apple. He was the face.
Yeah.
You put him out there because that's the person you need to see.
Everybody has a role. I mean, you can talk about the UFC. If you didn't know about it, you would thought Dana White owns the UFC.
Hey,
not at all. Endeavor, now TKO. So, like, yeah, everybody has a role, one way or another. And I think that's where we start to really see, to me, in the very beginning of this, is where you take that and what we know about these characters on the show, and you say the maturity, the understanding of everybody has a position, and just being the face or the popular one, whatever, doesn't mean that you can't equally be successful in your own position, right, or duties, whatever it may be. So that right there makes me excited for the next season, because we really get to now see T not try to prove himself, but now he knows he's self-established and he can do what he needs to do. And I would like to start to see that T that feels untouchable, but really get on the phone going crazy.
That's the person who I want to see. It's because and it took him years before he got caught on the phone.
Yeah.
So I want to see what it is when T completely got to the point where he felt I'm untouchable.
Yeah.
Because his movements when he thought he was untouchable were crazy. Meaning the way he built that business when he thought he was untouchable was amazing. And that's the T you want to see, because we see glimpses of it this season. The smart moves, we don't need to do violence. Let's go about it this way. I got a better way to handle this situation. We saw those type of moves. Now I need to see it come completely out and him do that to everybody and then fuck everybody head up.
Yep. All right, so next thing we get what I thought was the Fulton County Jail, but I mean, I guess when cars get repossessed and or evidence,
impound. Go to impound lot. It's weird. I didn't fully understand this scene. Yes, normally cars go to the impound lot. If it's not claimed, then it goes to the auction block. So they just skipped the whole claiming part and said, "We're gonna put them Jones right on the auction block, Joe." Like it's a weird thing there. But yes, if the cars don't get claimed, they go on the auction block, or they don't pay the fine to claim the car, which I'm pretty sure Meech and them would have had no issue doing any of that.
Yeah.
But instead, we get all the vans on the auction block.
Yeah, and Remy comes through, got the cash, so he could get the keys. They roll off with the vans, and it's because as the BMF boys, Meech and them says, because he got the cops on the payroll, and they put 2 and 2 together. Because listen, one thing about Tina, who a name I haven't really been shouting as loud as I should have, Tina would be putting the clues together. Tina was like, yeah, that's exactly who tipped off the Red Dolls. And then beyond that, lays the plan of going to JR Cricket's parking lot, because that's where everybody meet as the BMF people look to make their next move for their Atlanta domination. We'll talk a little bit about that more in a second. But when they're in the with T in the car now, he hears that Hoop got shot up, and the streets are saying it's Henry, and T and Meech having this conversation. And what I didn't realize is that T had never really admitted to Meech what was happening back home, but he said like he was fighting his own war, and explains Henry and the situation and so on. And Meech really didn't care for the details, but said, "You got to put her down." What did you think about the brother dynamic here? And to kind of really lay down where I'm kind of going at with this is that Meech did not suggest anything about handling this. He says, "You got to put her down." What I thought was interesting, because in a way you can say, oh, he empowered his brother, but he also knows his brother's not a killer. And he has very adamantly said that endless times. and then on the other end, Meech has been very trigger happy in a way to step up to prove himself to be the top dog, which tells me something, because I know people like this. They get this ideal of like, I got to prove something to these other folks so that they can get this image of me. But for the people that know me, they know me, and they give me a pass in all of the foolishness that I do. I felt like when he did not suggest to go do it, that's what he was kind of laying out. Like, nah, you got to go do that. I have to still keep my image here. It's not my problem.
It's not my problem. That's your problem. How about you go deal with your problem? That's all that was. It was a nice way to say, you need to deal with your problem. Because I'm dealing with mine here. I'm handling mine. When are you going to handle yours? And that's part of the reason that T was not upfront about Henry with Meech. Because he didn't want to come across as soft. Because if he'd went in any form of detail to tell Meech, by the way, she done killed this one, she done killed that one, she been doing all this, Meech would probably be like, hey, why ain't she dead already? Like, what are y'all doing there that she's still walking? Instead, he gave him the simplest information, and Meech gave him the simplest answer. Man, you need to handle that. You need to put her down. And at this point, it maybe it's Meech like, man, at this point, you have to do it. If she's going this buck wild, you eventually your face has to show. Eventually, you have to show people that you are not to be played with.
Yeah.
Like, your name still needs to ring bells in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Not necessarily, if it ain't gonna ring them in the streets, it need to ring it through your crew. Yeah. So it needs to be you that handles this. And we saw what happened.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments y'all thoughts about this. I'm sure there's some other commentary because again, I still very much feel this is a complete 360 to Meech and how he was Mr. Protective of his brother, not allowing his brother to take the shot, not allowing his brother to handle a gun, knowing his brother's not a killer.
But remember now, his brother now is running his own city. We are no longer in a situation where I can hamstring you
Meech,
or bring you along. I can no longer hold your hand. Like I'm running. Meech technically has gotten Atlanta up and running, St. Louis, Chicago, Detroit. Like what did T do? At this point, all you're doing is maintaining what Meech left you.
That's why your initial statement that T is running that city, I do not feel Meech actually believes that. I feel like Meech feels like he's running all these things, and T is his brother. And in purgatory, no title, no role. You're just my brother.
I think he wants to throw it off on him. Like, nah, because keep in mind, look how many times T is brought up coming back home, and Meech has been like, nah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Like he's like, oh no, that's you. Like, that's all you, buddy. I need you to work that out. Everything that's going on there is on you. And if we both can't operate independently from each other, or I gotta hold your hand constantly, man, I might as well find somebody else to actually lead.
Yeah. You're entirely right. All right. Surprise. Hoop is not dead as we go to the hospital now. T makes it back with one of those Grand Theft Auto cheat codes. Cause man, Detroit and Atlanta are not next door to each other, but I digress.
Not next door to each other at all.
But T, very, very clear, tells everybody he's going to pull the trigger this time. I thought that was funny because
nobody believed him.
No, because everybody didn't know he didn't pull the trigger the last time. Remember?
Yeah.
So he's just like,
sure he snitched on himself.
Exactly. And I am mad that they did not have a reaction of folks saying, "What do you mean?" It literally, it was right there. But obviously, because Hoop is alive is more of a concern, there definitely should have been some, wait, what do you mean you're going to pull it this time? Who pulled it the last time, you know? But that's no here, no there. Here's a scene that I cannot believe it took to the 10th episode for us to get some type of clarity. And I'm not going to even pretend like I'm happy about how, I mean, granted, they wrapped this all up in a nice bow, but there's definitely, to me, felt like there should have been a little bit more story with here as we get to meet Amberson's dad, Councilman Amberson, and Jen is there. And this has always been the question about what's his role, what's his allegiance and alliance, you know, who is he loyal to, who works for him, who does he work for? We had a lot of questions with him, and we got no answers until one phone call later on, which just answered almost everything. But do y'all understand that we also was robbed of Councilman Amberson and Blaze interaction and dynamic of power?
And never so.
And authority?
Look here. If we're gonna worry about the things we were robbed of, it starts with Blaze altogether, and then it goes from there. So it's like
huge casting.
It got to the point in this episode where it felt like everything was being wrapped up like a sitcom.
Can I say something? I don't know when I was going to say this, but let me just say it now. I said this in praise, and I'm not going to say who I said it to. You just have to check all of our content, but I've said this. And I said how it felt like every season there was a new deck of cards to play with. And beyond the new deck of cards to play with, you had so many other folks wanting to be involved. Let's think about the names that were attached this season. You look at the announcements and the regulars coming back, you're like, oh shit, this is getting good. But it seems like that every season they're turning the page on the characters, your regulars, your guest appearances, your celebrity names, your cameos. Every year they're turning the page on. So to me, the way how they cleared slate was also like a clear the budget. Clear the budget. We lost Blaze, Jen, we Blaze, Jen, Henry, potentially Charles, like Neo.
It makes you wonder what they were talking about over there on Ghost. Like, hey, we got a 4th season, but after that they was like, nah, because we became too expensive. Here BMF getting these seasons, they like, technically, if we clear the deck every year, who are we bringing back? Meech and Da Vinci? That's it?
Yeah.
We good. McCole? Like, we don't have to bring back too many people if we constantly clear the deck. Yeah, like is Sydney coming back? Because I'd be damned if that didn't feel like a sitcom send-off.
True that.
She going to hair school. Like, hey, what is there else to talk about?
And Layla's growing and matured in this role. It'd be completely disheartening and criminal if they do not let. I mean, the real Nicole Flenory is
she became involved. Like,
she's like EP producer. She's something involved with the show.
Yeah,
but so you have to imagine that she has to have Nicole on the show. Like, that doesn't even really make sense. Which is probably why McCole is probably very safe too.
If you're just doing them 4, you good. And none of them carry the budget of some of the other shows and what their stars will carry.
Listen, Lala coming off the books potentially too. Like, it literally felt like every season they're just like, yes, turning the page. So, I mean, if that's the way how they got to keep the budget, then so be it. But for me, it just prepares me for next season to not be emotionally connected to any of these characters for any type of long-term storytelling.
Goldie got his ass whooped and disappeared for the rest of the show. Of the show. He got his ass whooped and disappeared. Yeah. Greenie.
I said Goldie because Goldie also didn't
Goldie disappeared after her sister got sick. We ain't seen her since her sister got sick.
Miles didn't come back as B Mickey. Like,
I guess that's the thing for BMF here, because again, it felt, and I know we getting off going to talk about it, just felt, it's one scene in particular where Meech is in the warehouse and they do a wide pan shot and he's smiling and they play music and then they fade it to black. I said, oh my fucking, that is Family Matters. Like, that was a sitcom exit completely. And that wasn't even the end of the episode. It ended a chapter and it felt like a sitcom exit. Like, I guess that's their thing, is like, clear the deck and then we'll just start anew. And as long as we got the main 4 in the family, because Charles is not one of the main 4 in the family, as long as we got the main 4 in the family, we can continue the story.
Yeah. All right. So what was I talking about? So I was talking about so Councilman Amberson, Jen gets in there, and Jen really wants to connect with Amberson, Councilman Amberson, because Kobe was like her sister, and she's doing what she can to bring justice for her murder. So she says she wanted he gives him her sentiments from Kobe about how she wanted to let everything go because her and her dad had a complicated relationship in past. But Jen says, I want her killer to be brought to justice, and you're going to help me make the arrest because obviously she's currently suspended, et cetera, et cetera. And before that's all said and done, he said he needed a name. And he said, have you heard of the Andreas family? And then, that is definitely one of those scenes where they faded the screen to black. And I was like, oh, but okay. But anywho, we get the Henry spot. And this is a powerful scene because y'all can say what y'all want. Ren, once again, really strong moments in this season, and this is another one as Henry is shaving her hair in tears. And I think there's a lot we can make with this. I'll say this. I think the responsible way to go about this is talk about how this scene made us feel. And for me, it really lets us know that Henry is rock bottom. The shaving of the hair has been synonymous for people in terms of wanting to restart, or a sense of like emptiness or ending. So like you can look at it as either beginning or end to something, one way or another. I think with everything that Henry has endured, obviously losing the business because she doesn't have the connect.
Yeah.
She lost her cousins. She's lost her father has lost her faith in her, you know. And the only thing she pretty much have going for her right now is this pseudo connection with Jen that she doesn't know is getting ready to play her. But I just thought how they filmed this. The first thing I had to say is them throwing the gospel music in this. And I was like, oh boy. I already knew. I already knew it was. I already knew what was coming here with this. But yeah, what did you think about this scene nonetheless?
It reminded me of, and this is for some maybe a weird correlation of a film. It reminded me of the Joker.
Yeah.
When we seen Arthur sit and his transformation began and we saw him become who he was meant to always be.
Yeah.
I think that's what this was with her, is that she was becoming who she was always meant to be. And she said her cousin always told her to cut her hair.
Yeah.
And she said, I just never had the balls to do it because he understood this is who you are. And this was that full embracing of it. It's sad because it took her to lose the person who meant the most to her for her to make this transition.
Yeah.
But like, I think that was the whole purpose of it. I was so looking forward to once this was done, what we was going to get out of Henry. Like, I thought, okay, this is a sign we not only going to get her for this episode, but maybe this threat's going to continue on, because that's a big moment to have. A huge moment to have. They have that reveal of this is my true self.
Yeah.
Almost like Bane on the plane in The Dark Knight Rises. He's like, nobody cared who I was until I put the mask on. Like, that's what it feels like. No one cared who I was, so I shaved my head. That's what I was hoping for.
And I mean, there's so much we can speculate here. Like, I was so to the point where I thought she was. I agree with you with the Joker reference and correlation, but I was also say too, like, with her losing everything and never really having that acceptance from her dad, I thought this probably was like truly the beginning of her villain origin story, where we were really going to see her off the chain, which to me was like, shit, she already been off the chain. So what the hell are we about to get next? So listen, sign me up. And in fact, if you felt like you lost everything and now you no longer are concerned with the acceptance of your father, then what does that look like? Because that's a heavy burden, and that's a heavy burden that I ain't gonna say every kid, but majority of kids deal with. But a lot of within storytelling, a lot of characters, that's a part of their angle, is the acceptance of their family, their mother, their dad, of some sort. That's always the family burden is always bearing weight on somebody. When we have learned now through therapy that these are not our responsibilities to carry with us, but for the folks who don't know that, they handle it, or should I say, try to handle it in ways
not even try.
That sends them in.
Mask it. Exactly. They're not handling anything.
Yeah. Speak that truth. But now we get to a Flenory house. We got the divorce papers on the table. Lucille signed. Charles looks sick.
More gospel music.
More gospel music.
It was pumping gospel music out in this scene too.
Absolutely. And here's what's funny. So, and Nicole crying on the steps because, you know, as a kid, she feels like this is the intro family. So we understand that we now went through Henry, who's felt like she's lost everything. Lucille and Charles' relationship is over. Nicole thinking her family's over. And then we get to Meech, and Meech is with Angel, and Meech is on the other end of the happiness spectrum right now, where he's like, I have everything I want in front of me. You know, as he looks with his, well, I'm sorry, did I say Meech house? Angel's house, as he looks at the maps where he says everything is within his reach. There's a lot to make here, and I'm gonna sum this up and I give it to you. What Angel says next really got under my skin, but maybe it's just me. But Angel's like, well, what if we left together and started something new? And Meech talks about how perspective is everything, and talk about a saying that, you know, him and his brother have about see it, touch it, retain it. I like that saying. I've never heard of it. And He says, I'm going to make Atlanta and Remy my bitch. Like, at this point now, he's not leaving Atlanta. He's done everything he's needed to do to accomplish and take over Atlanta. Angel has said Atlanta's her home. I think she said Atlanta, she lives here, but Atlanta doesn't feel like her home, so she's trying to get away from Atlanta.
Yeah.
What do you make of Meech and Angel's home? And Angel, what do I say? What do I say about Angel shenanigans here?
when Angel said, I think we should leave and go somewhere else, I'm gonna steal what you said in the last episode we recorded, and it was pertaining to Angel. Bitch, where? Like you just throw suggestions out there. We just up and leave here. Like it's the weirdest thing in the world for her to say. At that point, like, he met you in Atlanta because he was establishing. You knew what he was building. You actually knew it, and you thought you could, in this moment, come and say that maybe it'd be better if we just leave. What?
Why are women like that?
Why would it be better?
Why would
it be better for us to leave? Like, it makes sense. Because women aren't logical. Everything is based off of emotion. That's what it is. This is an emotional response from Angel because everything that's happened.
And
so she's not thinking logically, like, there's no way he's going to leave. And he's put everything into building. Literally, the Wakanda mama line. Meech has given everything to build this in Atlanta.
The Wakanda mama line.
And you think he's going to then leave? It made no sense. But again, it's eventually, because of how it progressed after this, it felt like, okay, this was your clean slate for Angel. Because, I mean, when she announced that, she was going to do Angel's Last Dance and that she was going to open up a dance studio.
Wait, is that what they called it? Or is that what they called it? Or are you pulling that from P Valley?
No, nigga, they took Mercedes' entire storyline and gave it to Angel. You know what Mercedes said? I'm leaving and I'm going to do a studio for girls. You know what Angel said? I'm going to leave and I'm going to do a daycare for girls. And then she said, this is going to be my last dance. That's what Mercedes said. This is going to be my last dance. I didn't even
realize that. That just blew me.
Only thing Angel missing is a mama who steals all her money and then does it to build her own church. That's the only thing Angel's missing.
So here's the thing. Listen, and take the straight sexism out of it really quickly. Straight up, Angel is completely irrational, illogical, and quite frankly, a distraction, because all of the confusion, her life being in danger, anything that's been a threat to why she has a reason to leave has been her fault, because she's chasing wherever the money goes. She had no business being there, being with the MKs and being their lap dog from city to city, from Atlanta to Miami. She had no business going in that, and she thought that was going to show a sign of what? She also made that threatening gesture to Meech earlier, which is also something that you're like,
maybe I should just go with the MKs. It's like, strippers gonna stripper. That's what you got to realize, and that's all Angel's doing here.
But he's gave her a home. He got rid of her abuser. He done got rid of her threats with the MKs. She's making more money than. First of all, she's making so much money now that she's thinking about giving back, which is like, I don't know how many OnlyFans girls are out here talking about donating their money to any bit of charity or anything good.
They are not donating.
And the correlation is that these folks that make sex workers who make money, when they're making money, they're on the high with their money and living the lifestyle. They don't think to think back. So the fact that she's making so much that she even has the mindset to want to think back tells me that there's a very strong sense of security in her mind that she knows she's good. But then she suggests, let's just leave. Like, great idea. Let's leave.
Why not help the little kids of Atlanta? Yeah. Like, you've seen the city. Maybe it needs to help, Angel. Angel, maybe you can be their Angel. Like, the transition is perfect for you there. But instead,
what you gonna call her place?
Angel's Palace. Heaven. One of those two you got.
Angel's Palace. And then somebody gonna say, hey, that's interesting. That sounds like your other job, Platinum Palace. Oh, that makes sense. And you know what? I could see that character doing exactly that. It fits. The shoe fits here.
Because everything she said has been just flabbergasting. From her saying, all right, let's go back home. But you came here with other niggas. You didn't even come with me. What you mean for us to go back home? Yeah. And now we go back home, and now you want to leave. Like, could you make it make sense for me? What's going on here? But again, I understand if you don't feel safe. I understand if you feel that the world is bigger and you want to see something else. But that's not the reason that you gave to want to leave. You just said Atlanta doesn't feel like home anymore. Meech got there 3-4 months ago. Has he changed your life that much in 3 or 4 months? Did your time in Miami do that to you? Maybe that's what it was. Remember the MKs in Miami? You know what? When girls go on South Beach, we know what happens. They lose everything.
They hit Collins Avenue one time. They hit Wet Willie's one time.
One time. That first time they go to Wet Willie's and they can get frozen drinks. That's it. They hooked. I gotta live here now. I can't go back home. There's not a Wet Willie's back home. There's not a Wet Willie's back home.
Hey yo, I will never forget very, very young me when somebody told me about Wet Willie's and how good it was. I was like, huh. Is that like Fat Tuesdays? Like the joint I've been to in Vegas and in New Orleans? It's like, no, it's way better. It's way better. It's the so best spot ever. I was like, oh. I said, I gotta check this out. I get there, I'm like, oh. I get it. It's like L'Oreal Plaza in DC. You know when the girls get the swirls,
Margarita
it's a
Mondays?
wrap. It's
Margarita Mondays at L'Oreal Plaza.
The swirl.
That's the swirls. Dangerous. Absolutely dangerous, Joe.
I started doing the math. The math started mathing. And I was like, oh, I get it now.
Picture margaritas for $20 and you swirl them Jones up. Man, look here. Ain't no telling. Ain't no what a woman will do for a swirl. And some average ass tacos is sickening, Joe.
Dude, I remember, man. I'll never forget. I wanted to date the L'Oreal Plaza one time, and I don't know why I thought. First of all, I thought it was the best idea ever because I was like, "Oh, she'll love this," not knowing that every other girl in the world would be right in there. And like, oh, who you in here with? Oh boy, yeah. Go visit L'Oreal Plaza, folks. Video, come to DC.
Every girl in the world video with Lil Wayne. Like, and how all them jokes was popping up everywhere. That's L'Oreal Plaza, Joe. If you think he's going on a sneaky link to L'Oreal Plaza, you was being super reckless, Joe.
Hey,
man. L'Oreal Plaza and Rose Bar. No, there's no secrets in DC.
Yeah. All right, so we at the restaurant T, talking to the homies and told them he has this plan now. Not the BMF homies, but the homies that he got to be the supplier. And he's telling them now, listen, you got to go back and tell Henry you changed your mind. You need to be her supplier again. And he said, give me a time and place. I'm going to handle it from there. Charles comes in, says, Mom and I signed the divorce papers. And he says, I got nowhere to go. So we see Charles at a situation of like, what is he going to do next? But I don't want to spend too much time on that because we got so much more to go over. But I'm also very like, shouldn't there be more conversation here? I don't have nowhere to go.
Way more. Why don't you have anywhere to go?
What does that mean? How can I help? Yeah, listen. Here's one thing we can't talk about the BMF documentary. We know that Charles, and I don't want to spoil it for you all if you haven't seen the documentary, but I'm going to say that Charles. Don't forget that Charles put ink on paper for Meech to get his house in Atlanta. I thought they were going to pull something like that for him in Detroit, but for him to get a house somehow by getting the income from T, I just thought they were going to do something to that sort. I don't know. My mom was just going all sorts of different places, but they gave us nothing. He says, I have no place to go, and just was like, that's it. The result of that conversation,
I have no place to go till he went on tour.
Yes.
Very confusing.
And I mean, it would have been more responsible, in my opinion, for him to come in there and say, I signed the papers, I'm going on tour. Like,
yes.
okay, cool. Yes. Got it. I signed the papers. That's it for us. But I also decided I'm going on tour. I'm going to be gone. But
let Terry know everything that's going on, because Terry doesn't know about the tour. It's never been talked to with Terry.
Yeah. Could have definitely been something besides I have nowhere to go and to cut the scene.
That was a weird line. Yeah.
So Henry's spot now. So Jen and Henry are in there, and Jen gassing Henry up about the haircut, talking about Honor and Tyson's, and Jen starts to try to pry information out of Henry by saying like whoever it was got to pay, and then she says I'm gonna take down Terry Flenory, and then she asks like, so when are you gonna do this? But then the phone rings, and hopefully you all picked up as soon as I did, but I was like, oh, that's our father Blaze Kirkin, and says the cop you killed with your girl, the cop you killed, who is Kobe Amberson, is your girlfriend's partner. So first of all, when he said that, when he said that, I was like, my man has a lot of very. Oh, I see how he got this information. It started coming to me real quick. Anyway, let me finish reading. It said Councilman Amberson was with Detective Jen earlier, and she told him she is building a case against you. And I said, wow. Henry clearly looked wild. Brian's listening in. They start a little bit of foreplay, which turns into some choking. And Brian runs in. Jen is fighting back. Shots fired. Brian, I knew you was probably having a laugh of your life seeing the cop struggle to reload his gun. But that's no here nor there. Brian shooting and reloading his revolver. Henry gets shot in the leg. And then Jen says Kobe was right about her dad being a piece of shit. He's on Blaze payroll too. But they don't know about the wire because Brian asked, did he know about the wire? I said, cool, doesn't know about the wire, so we're still in play. What did you think about all of that? So to give you some specifics, what did you think about Councilman Amberson being on Blaze's payroll and not equals, not even partners, not even anything of some level of equality? That's the first thing I want to say. And then ultimately, what did you think about once Henry got all the news and her reaction to it?
First, I'm gonna address what you saying equality, because I've never heard equality before. Nigga. I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Can I tell you something?
I'm gonna let that shit ride though. We're gonna let it ride. We're gonna discuss. We're gonna let that shit ride. Equality.
Can I tell you something? Can I tell you something I learned the other day? You know how back in the day they said fishes was not a real word? You know they reversed that? Fishes is now actually considered.
Fuck all people who made fishes a word. Fishes is not a word. And if I hear you say fishes, I digress. First with Amberson and Blaze, we got to go all the way back to the beginning when they kept on telling us that Blaze was over everything. They kept on saying he was over politicians, he was over the police, he was over everything. So I wasn't surprised. I'm just mad that we didn't get more of that to show him being over all this stuff, because then it wouldn't come as such a shock that her dad would do this.
They gave him
and it only becomes a shock because we didn't see Blaze do any of this.
They gave him a 4 parents deal, not 4 episodes, 4 parents, 4 scenes.
Exactly. That's what threw us off. The crown jewel of the scene is Henry's reaction as she's on the phone, because Ren kills this scene because they do nothing but smile the entire time. There is not one hint that I am getting the worst information humanly possible given to me. Instead, Henry looks calm.
Yeah.
And she's getting all of this information. So when she gets back to Jen, and then we get the playfulness, even the light choking, which is, sexual in nature at first. But then when we see the full threat of it, that I love the way they set up this scene. Absolutely love the way they set up this scene.
It's the final portrayal. So the reaction to it, I thought was amazing. Equality is not a word because equality is the word.
I knew it was equality, sir. But equality. Yeah. When you said equality, I said, "Oh, this nigga spitting. We gonna go with equality."
Yeah.
Kendrick gonna put in his next diss to Drake.
We can do it sometimes out here. But I agree. I mean, again, it just gives you so much promise of what's next for this character.
Yep.
Knowing that we got a character established in the season, that really has some interest, some intrigue. I mean, even gaining social media reactions one way or another.
Yeah.
Characters doing a lot of things right.
Man.
But the budget, the true villain.
The true villain of season 3 of BMF, STARZ executives. They was like, nope, we can't afford this. Christopher, we're gonna have you in 3 episodes. Because I think that's all Blaze showed up in was 3 episodes. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you gotta go.
This next scene is dedicated to Uncle Lou, as now we turn to the hotel, where once again slow music is on. The doctor's in a towel, rose petals on the ground, and Lucille is feeling sexy because after she signed those papers, that's all she needed to get that vagina wet
instantly.
For my man.
Instantly got wet the moment she signed the papers, Joe.
And this only took about 16 minutes into the episode here. That's how much we're covered so far. Because Maurice has been waiting so long for this. The conclusion of that scene comes after one scene. So let's just talk about the JR Crickets.
Get this over.
Yeah,
let's get them out the way. And then go back to jail.
Yeah, okay, go for it. So when we come back to the hotel, then after they're done, because there's one thing STARZ wasn't going to do was give us a Lucille sex scene with Dr. Maurice, the most honest, loyal Black doctor we've ever seen on television ever. Because
he's honest and he is loyal.
Yep. So yes, he is.
It's up for question.
I couldn't even believe how right. Never mind.
Nah, nigga, you weren't right. You said that man was married. He had a long-time girlfriend. Because when he said, I've been engaged for 2 years,
he had a fiance, and Lucille responded the way she should have. Because all right, so let's talk about what happened. So she's feeling good. This is everything she dreamed of. She talks about that how Charles and her have been over for a long time. God closed the door and opened it up and opened another when you came along talking to Maurice. And while she's saying all these sweet pleasantries, my man Maurice, for the first time in 10 episodes, looks uncomfortable and his eyes are moving all over the place. He's like, because he got what he wanted. So first of all, doctors are down 10 points off of this one because you done tried to take the nice guy role, do all the five-star hotel.
We can't say try because he said something there by the end of this episode. He said something at the end of this scene that literally showed why Lucille should have been mad. But I digress. Why she was mad. I understand because of what she went through with Charles, why she was mad. Any other woman, and I mean any other woman, would have fully stayed with him there because she'd have understood what he said.
Well, I mean, we know, listen, Lucille stands on business, okay? That's the one thing we know about her.
Holy Ghost business.
She ain't, listen, because you heard what she said to Charles later on. Heavenly Father told me that he's the only man that I need in my life.
Hey, I ain't got nothing wrong with him saying that. I doubt he actually used those words.
At all. But you know what though? People gonna use God whenever it's convenient for them. They're gonna make sure God get in there and Jesus gets.
Where was God at in that bed with Dr. Maurice? Is God there too? Because if he sees all,
what she did say, God did open the door for you and us.
So you hung high and strung low with Dr. Maurice. So you can't act like it. But again, go to what he's saying, because that's
so right when all the googly eyes and him looking all confused and uncomfortable, he says, Lucille, I have something to tell you. And I Birdman hand rubbed. I was like, go ahead and tell him, brother. We already know what it is. We know you married. So go ahead and say it. That's why you use all these hotels, never bringing her back to the crib, because you got to have a nice house. You're a doctor, you know. But he says, I want to start the rest of our life with honesty. I've been engaged for 2 years and I couldn't bring myself to walk down the aisle. And then Lucille, this is the funniest part of the entire episode because Lucille has just been saying nothing but sweet pleasantries to my man. And then, next thing you know, she brought back that voice that she gives to Charles on a day-to-day basis. I knew this was too good to be true. She, you know what? Honestly, I would have loved if she would have called him Charles right there. She would have got mad and said, I knew this was too good to be true, Charles.
I have been defending Lucille this entire season. This man next to me, my partner, how much he done put her down because she wouldn't stand with cheating ass Charles. But after this scene, I realized Lucille doesn't deserve happiness. This man literally told you he was engaged for 2 years, didn't walk down the aisle because she wasn't you. It's literally, you know what Dr. Maurice did? He literally did the same thing that Whitney did when she walked down the aisle, and then Dwayne Wayne came down the aisle when she's about to get married, and he like, what's up? And she looked at her fiance and said, I can't do this. It's the perfect 90s setup. And Lucille like, no, I won't be the other woman. Clearly you're not. He just told you to your face, I can't get married because I'm in love with you. Like, that's perfect. What you just want to say, I'm leaving her. Fuck her. I don't care about her. I care about you. I want to be with you. Lucille doesn't deserve happiness, okay?
And listen,
at this point, let her be with her God because she deserves nothing.
Tap in.
He's a good man, Savannah.
Tap in the comments. Tap in the comments right now. Give us your reactions to Lucille walking away from Maurice because she, as she says, I knew this was too good to be true, and good riddance.
Exactly. Ended it that fast. Like, nope. My man said, I've been engaged for 2 years. Unless you are Kendrick Lamar, you cannot be engaged that long and think that woman gonna stay. Like, it's humanly impossible. And that it made no sense because he's letting you know I've been engaged for 2 years, but I can't get married because I'm in love with you. But again, Lucille didn't hear any of that. All she heard was engaged. Yeah, that's all she heard. Everything else went out the window to her.
And that's fine. I mean, listen, she felt betrayed. She felt like she should have knew this off break. And
which is true.
You know, she made the decision. And I think her reacting to everything is completely justified here. And I think she'll take time to figure out what she wants to do afterwards. That's the weird thing. Of all the characters that will probably return next season, of everybody we talked about, it probably will be him. We probably will see a Dr. Maurice Montclair next year or next season. He
ends his engagement and says it's over.
No,
I never wanted to be with her.
No, we're gonna see him. We're gonna see him married next time, 1,000% married, and that's gonna be the end of it. Because one way or another, spoiler alert.
We need to keep Lucille single. Is that what you're saying?
Spoiler alert.
We need to keep Lucille single. So
there ain't no step happies in that BMF family. I'll tell you that. So anyway, we get to the garage where all the vans were. Meech meets up. I don't know, I forget who he's what's his name? I'm like, wait, we missing something here. Yeah, because JR Cricket's parking lot. And they went looking for Sharp. So he said he got the word from Claude. Meets so here's, God, we got so much we want to talk about, but we killing time right now. We are doing horrible on time, should I say right now. But Meech is there looking for Sharp. And he said he got the word from Claude. Meech says, listen, no one can get into our cars without the mechanic. And you know, because Sharp was unsure. First of all, Sharp had the right hesitation. So like, y'all don't have your van, so y'all have the product, that's got to be gone. But he said no one can get into our cars without our mechanic. And then he says, what I got to do to be down with BMF? And then we see somebody looking on, and ends up being Froggy, who's another one of Remy's guy. But one thing I wanted to quickly say here, what did you think about Meech, which in my opinion, completely oversharing, talking about the car, how it's in the car, but you can't get into the car without my mechanic.
He was just letting them know, like, one, you can't get into it without us. And if you could, you wouldn't be here in my face.
But
like, if you could get to work, we wouldn't have this conversation. You can't get, I think it was him filling the place for the guy that Remy put his head in the ice bucket. He still needs someone to turn on Remy. So if he tells this guy, by the way, my safes are so secure, you ain't getting in them, he ain't getting in them, the Red Dogs couldn't get in it. But if you want my work, if you want to be on with me, take me to them and I want them. And I'll give you the product. I think this was him just trying to pull in someone else. And he shared that his safes are that secure. But one thing he did not share is the passcode to get into the safe. Because remember, you don't need the mechanic to get into the safe. You just needed Meech to get into the safe.
I would have just said, like, listen, knowing that your product is in there and people can't get into it one way or another, I think it was just oversharing. It's like, bro, your setup, your configuration, your mod, shall I say, is what you did. Saying, like, yeah, I got the best mechanic, puts a target on your mechanic's back. Also,
I think he was just recruiting, though. That's what I think. I think it was just a recruiting from Meech.
Yeah. I also felt like, too, is a measure of us seeing Meech become Meech, because now he's bragging about having the guy having the best compartments that nobody can find. The Red Dogs can't, because
the girl who you shouted out,
Tina.
Because remember, Tina put him on like, this guy's wavering from Remy. Have a conversation with him.
Yeah. And
Meech knew then, like, okay, I just got to tell this nigga just enough to get him on my side.
Yeah. Okay. So then we get to the garage where the vans are. Meech makes Sharp turn his back, gets the 2 bricks. And Sharp mentioned how he got Atlanta. Mentioning how he has Alabama. So now, Meech is just talking about more expansion with folks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So he gives him a Brit so he can get Alabama going, gets the vans. And then when all that happening, we see Remy comes out because he says, we got another snake, and there's Remy and the crew shootout. Somebody got ran over, and Remy kirks like, fuck, because no one actually got shot. And they lost all of the product. For some
reason, they thought guns over cars.
Yeah.
No, it's never guns over cars. Like, I love the point that they all stood there and started shooting their weapons, and nobody wondered, hey, what happened if they just decided to run us over with these big ass things?
I love everybody's ridiculous reaction. Just like, oh yeah, well, I can never get ran over, and dude gets ran over. He took one for the team. He took one for the set too. They was like, hey, we need somebody we need some level of casualty.
Somebody got to get ran over here. Like, it's a van running full speed at you.
I'll take it. I'll get hit by one of those conversions.
And ain't nothing more dangerous than Meech Toretto behind the wheel. So somebody has to get ran over.
I'm gonna go through a bunch of stuff because we still got a lot to go. So we get back in the car where T calling Markeisha, but she hasn't returned her call since Miami. So that feels like the send off for her, but whatever. Mm-hmm. We get back to the Flenory house. Lucille's looking at Charles' work. He's patching the holes. I mean, she's looking at Charles like she's like, oh, look at you, but she also comes clean about how things aren't going to work out with her. She calling this nigga Reese. She just cut the mo off. She just called him Reese.
So you got no offense and no, sorry if it sounds a little vulgar for people. That's what happens when you got good dick. Names get chopped off. Names get chopped. I ain't been called Lucas by a woman in God knows how long.
So it says, so then after that, Charles like, oh, okay, so what she said, she says first, he's not who I thought you was. So then Charles is like, so does that mean you're gonna come on tour? Which I thought was the exact response he was going to give. Yes. Then Lucille says, no, I've been praying to God to see you as a friend and not my husband. The only man I need in my life is my heavenly father. And they hug it out, friends forever. God, I hated that, but whatever. We get back to Henry's spot, and
not a bail like shit there, Joe.
That's what the show bail. The
friends forever. Oh man.
We get to Henry's spot, and Blaze walks in, and Kirkin says, Henry says Jen got away, and then Blaze says, you have brought nothing but death and disappointment since you've been born. And Henry responded, how could you say something so fucked up like that to me? And then
Man.
He listens like your mother, then your cousins, like all of it. It's all death, and not gonna let you be the death of everything that I worked so hard to build. I'm stripping you of your organization. Then Henry's crying, and he called her Henrietta, and while she's crying, she says, "My name is Henry Said." And for all my Nintendo 64 people out there, let me tell y'all one thing. If you ain't on slappers mode, then it's the only other mode that you playing, and that is the golden gun mode. And you know when that comes out, that's a one shot, and you dead. So I'm just gonna tell you, her bringing out the golden gun and shooting them 10 times was a rage kill.
Yes.
But she says, say my name. But anyway, yeah.
Another beautiful, great scene.
He
of you thinking the complete origin story is now complete.
Yeah, because he says women are so emotional. First thing I thought about that, this is gonna sound crazy. As soon as she said that, I said, see, this is the same shit Trump was saying. I can't fuck with Blaze. Out here so emotional. Shot him 5 times.
By the pussy, doing everything Trump was doing is Blaze. That's right. He shot him.
But Blaze is gone, and then Jen listening on the mic says, "We got her now. Murder 1, call for backup." And there's that. Yeah, we already talked about that, so we won't have to spend a little more time on that. So back in the car, we get T. T and them are staking out for Henry, but they say if Henry's not coming, we're going to her. So the cops rolls up to Henry's spots. She gets arrested. Then Jen gets to say what she was trying to say in the last episode. Those cuffs are my partner's cuffs that you killed. GQ, who's been really doing nothing but making little comedic jokes within the police station, he's the one that makes the arrest. And what else happened here? So GQ made the arrest. No, right in there. So GQ makes the arrest. Jen makes the statement about the cuffs. Henry says we could have been good together, which was hilarious. Like, what is the origin story? You're right. This is all it's right in itself. But then Bryant comes in, whispers, and says, "I killed your cousin," which I thought was hilarious.
The pettiest thing in the world to do with somebody with cuffs on.
Yep. Before I talk about what happens on the outside, I have to ask you one question. Why was Brian and Jen allowed to be there when one suspended?
It made no damn sense. The one who got fired from the precinct, the other one suspended, and magically you two are allowed to walk a crime scene. Made no sense. But power logic. It's okay. They were cops at one point in time. Because it didn't make any sense at all that they were allowed to walk that scene. Because the first thing would have been asked is, how the hell did y'all even get on the scene? Keep in mind, as Brian is shooting his gun at Henry, everything he's doing is illegal. And yet he's not in a pair of cuffs.
Yeah.
But hey, power logic. Don't even think about it. Just breeze right through it.
And Jen says, no matter where you go, wherever you go, I'm going to be there throughout the whole process. But we'll talk about a little bit more what happens, why that's not going to make a difference for either account. So Jen made a false threat because you're leaving, but whatever. So anyway, T and them are looking on, and it's like, man, T, you won. And why T did get this win, it all comes back to what we said earlier about trying to outshine Meech. It says, this whole time been trying to prove I'm a man and a leader, and that, you know, I could be Meech, but you know, Meech was always going to be the face of BMF. And he says, listen now, you know, move in the shadows, they'll never see you coming. And T definitely takes light to that. Go back to Techwood. Meech is in the hood talking a bit. So first of all, as soon as I saw it, I said, wait, is Meech in Techwood talking to folks? Didn't he just learn? But
clearly he didn't.
You know, listen, for all my folks who love me and is a fan of mine, which is like none of y'all, because y'all all love Lucas. Y'all should know where I'm about to go at with this scene, okay? And anytime I start going off track, it could be only one direction. Matter of fact, there could only be one speed I'm going to go, and that's a quarter mile of a speed, because
quarter mile at a time.
Yep, because this is my favorite scene of the episode here. So Meech in the hood talking business. And Meech is in Techwood. I was like, what the fuck? What's he doing there? He says, listen, Techwood don't want you, Remy. Oh, wait. So Meech is there. And then Remy rolls up. And Remy's like, oh, this nigga done lost his mind. And he pulls his gun. And everybody else pulls out their gun. And Meech Toretto says, this is Techwood.
Exactly.
This is Brazil.
This is Brazil.
Brazil.
Oh, man.
Hey, yo.
I didn't think that when he did that. That shit was fucking hilarious.
But anyway, they said, Remy, your time is up. And Remy says, this is the last you seen of me, pussy nigga. And he leaves out. I gotta tell you, I am happy that we get more Remy because what's his name? Very low key has been killing it. And I really, really can't wait to see him get more and more roles. Hopefully this puts him on the map for some other big things to come. So what'd you say? Right? Jason. Yeah, Jason. Yep. Yeah. So now we get a scene of a car rolling down the street, and what am I saying? I forgot all about this scene. I'm sitting here either way. No, either way. First thing is, I can't wait to see Jason in more roles. I was hoping for more Remy because this next scene that you're probably not even remembering is that we see a car rolling down the street and it's Remy. And then Remy's like, let me get one of those, keep the change. What's in that bottle? I had my thoughts, but
I thought it was water. And I'm from DC, so when I say water, I'm not talking about drinking water. So I thought it was boat. I just thought it was boat.
I was gonna say an O cup, but
nigga, O cup is liquor. Boat is liquid promethazine. Like I thought that's what that was. When he asked, let me get one. I didn't think it was real water, but it's in Atlanta. They got water boys in Atlanta though, so it may be actual water. I'm not sure.
Nah, that is not like that. That's definitely.
It
could have been. It could have been.
Yeah.
But him getting this, keeping the change, gets a gun to his head and gets killed, get his head splattered. Mm-hmm. I hated the scene. Because I wanted Jason to come back. I wanted Remy. Who the hell is our villain now? Because you just done killed everybody that was a villain, threat.
Who's been the villain in this entire season? Because really no one.
Brian.
But yeah, Brian, that's it.
This was absolutely an unnecessary death because it only is going to amount to next episode of the premiere of them saying like, oh, who killed them? And it is going to be like, oh, we just heard it was just some random person on the thing, which is like
technically the big three villains all died in the worst ways humanly possible.
This one just didn't make sense. Oh yeah, he got shot. We just don't know if he's dead or not. Yeah, we just don't know. Yeah, and he could be alive because let's not forget that Hoop just took a bunch of shots and survived.
Exactly.
So it's weird that Hoop took a bunch of shots and survived. Kobe took a bunch of shots.
Ty Washington took one shot
and died. Yeah,
and died.
I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about here.
Let's all over again. With my man, the mechanic.
Fast makes sense. Okay.
No, the mechanic took one shot and he died. They had him dead before they stopped. They're like, oh, he's gone. Let's mourn his death. Here we get everyone else gets shot multiple times and still living. I'm just saying.
I don't know.
Brian's still alive.
But Remy dying here just didn't make sense to me, man. I was just kind of shocked. And I was just like, they sent them off. And then it's like, then the next scene, he gets killed in a drop. Who had that much heat for him?
And that's what I'm wondering. Like, is the setup going to be who killed Remy? Because was it one of Meech's people? Or was it somebody completely different? Was it Glock who ordered that hit on him? We just don't know.
Yeah. All right, so now we go a week later now because we have a time jump here. And now we got representatives from Missouri, Alabama, Michigan, Ohio, and Georgia. So, well, everybody's all aligned. This is only the beginnings, all the players there. This is where you pick up your work, drop off your money, and Meech is making things happen. People are getting past the red doll. So we're seeing that the system with the mechanics are all working. Everybody's smirking. Yep. The brother's catching up with a phone, talk about mom and pops calling it quits. So that means that for a whole week, Meech didn't even know. Nicole's not handling it good as he gets the update. And then T says, I'll see you in Atlanta soon. In jail, there's a scene that I wasn't expecting also. So now we see Henry in jail. Here's what doesn't make sense. Henry may have lost her organization, but she still have some level of plug connections or something.
No, because remember, the people who will protect her, they protected her because she had money. The money gone.
No, she got the money. Her uncle gave her the money. She was good.
No, she got the money to continue operating, but she had the money to pay for protection.
I mean, without thinking so deep into this, even if she lost her protection, that shouldn't have had her become. First of all, let's explain this. She got killed by some random person in there by order of Denise. The order came from Terry. Denise is the chick that got arrested in season 1, I think. Yep. Who was who was driving the cars with the Flenory family business.
She was the mechanic with Charles.
Yes. So good call back there. I like that. But her being a savage all of a sudden, because while she was loyal and she was down, I didn't see this side of her. And also, she got this much time?
Because remember, when she got her, because she had a lot of drugs. And remember Terry saying, I'm gonna take care of your family this entire time. You don't worry about anything.
So Terry called the head.
Loyal. Yeah.
And said a special friend sends their regards. So Henry getting killed in jail like that, I'm thinking like even
that's it.
Yeah. It's so we get the cemetery, Ty Washington grave, and Meech declaring that he's gonna keep his legacy alive. We get the Flenory home. LaWanda's going to church, enrolled in cosmetology school. The conversation about who's going to watch the kids. And then they also have their little bonding moments of like, her saying, I'm gonna have a career together. And she said, I must support you regardless. We get another weird moment of the new Cornerstone Church of Charles' plan. Lucille becomes the assistant pastor. She gives her testimony because she had a lot to get off her chest.
Testimony was so weak, didn't even move to heavens. Yeah. How can that be your testimony?
Platinum Palace.
Still drug dealers. Your divorced husband playing the guitar in church, and you the assistant pastor.
Yeah.
No, I want no parts of that church.
So we get the Platinum Palace. It's the which is Angel's last night in the club. We see Angel's last dance. Because we see her with her vision board, talking about saving money for the after school program for girls. The whole thing of I'm strong because of you. It's always been in you. Meech is a feminist. He empowered this young lady, and she was trying to leave. And says, where to find me. Atlanta's going to be my home now. We get to the hospital. Hoop, the nurse that the nurse was definitely thick as shit.
Yeah, she was.
Hoop gets to calamari, so they run that joke back again. And T saying he's running back to the A. And also give Hoop the acknowledgement that he's been the best right-hand man he could ever ask for. And said we on top. That also made me feel like maybe Hoop is done too. Hey man, just focus on getting better, man. Just know that you served me well.
Hoop is such a good right-hand man that he snitched to LaWanda that you was with Markeisha. You ain't that good.
We get to Bryant's home, and we quickly see on the news that Councilman Amberson gets arrested. Jen says she's going to LAPD, which is her signing out now. Bryant said he's headed south, and she said, is that because of where Meech is at? I don't know, but we all know they was headed down there, and we know that because of the scene with Detective Bryant and Detective Chambers, played by Leslie Jones.
Remember, that's been arresting T in Detroit.
That's true. That wasn't in. No. Oh, it was. It was T. It was T.
It was T.
In St. Louis.
Oh, St. Louis. Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was in St. Louis.
It wasn't Atlanta though.
It wasn't Atlanta. You're right. So all we know is that Bryant is getting ready to go wherever the Flenorys go. He's on hot pursuit. So there's that. But he while Jen tries to help him clean out his son's cabin room, he says he got to do it by himself. So a little bit of grieving going on there, but he's getting everything ready to go. Even with the Walkman in hand, Kevin's Walkman. Back at the Flenory home, Nicole made dinner, Daddy's favorite. Charles comes downstairs, like, I gotta leave sooner than I thought. The bus is here, and says, and leaves out. And Lucille's like, I hope it's everything you ever dreamed of. And we just see Lucille and Nicole, and says it's gonna be okay. And family dinner, just the two of them. Nicole prayer over the family, tears, and Lucille giving Nicole love by saying, you turn into a beautiful woman. I think the next season, oddly enough, is going to be the most polished of the seasons, because we get to focus on the characters, Lucille and Nicole, the real Lucille and Nicole, are involved with the production of the show, which means that they can really carve out these characters more. And now that Layla's getting older and she's becoming a better actor, I think they're going to start giving her more within the script. And I think that, like, not only that, they also get to kind of get back on track into the family as we know it. And it has always been Nicole and Lucille, which is why you see them together as a tandem now, because it's always been them two. So why that was kind of like oh man, where's Charles? And I know that young Glue is going to have a hard time doing his skits reenacting Charles and Lucille. I think there's still a lot to look forward to with Nicole and Lucille and their dynamic, and to see them
Charles on the road with Kurt Franklin. He ain't thinking nobody else right now.
We got two more scenes here. So we get Meech at Meech's house, and he's declarating. He's looking at the USA map, talking about the future BMF, and him talking about we're capable of doing more, and talking about putting a half a ton in each state. And while T's a little bit reserved, Meech is very serious and said we're about to take over the whole nation. And it just goes back to what I said earlier about like how T's always a little skeptic when it comes down to what Meech's plan is. But Meech is a visionary, and so far it's been proven to work. So far so good. Platinum Palace. BMF Boys taking the toast now, because for the first time in this entire season, Platinum Palace has not turned into a war zone. They actually can just go in there, just no violence.
Everybody's gone.
They
run Atlanta. This is that sign that they run Atlanta. There's no more threats of Remy or Glock or MKs. None of that.
So I got a question. So the next scene, right with this, we see now Dion, we talked about earlier, and Meech says, "Hey, that's Dion over there. Send him some top shelf bottles." So if a guy at the other end of a bar sent you a drink, you're probably going to say no. Is it not weird, or is it not a flex
if he sends
somebody a bottle?
If he sends you a bottle, you're going to ask, who the hell is he?
Okay.
That's gonna be the question. I ain't gonna say no.
And that's what happened. So so this is normal behavior. I've never seen another guy send another guy a bottle.
Only a certain caliber of people send each other bottles in the club. Like, that's a different one.
And Atlanta's different in this general. So in its whole entirety. So like it could be a normal thing there. So I just don't know.
But it's a status thing. So that's what you're checking for. Or it's a power move. It's one of the two. So you got to be careful when someone sends you a bottle, because they could be sending you a bottle. What the fuck you sending me a bottle for?
Exactly.
But you're going to ask who's sending me the bottle. And then you may get up to ask the question to that person. Personally, like, who's sending me this bottle? Like, nah, you're not, because it's not the equivalent of sending a man a drink in a club. Like, he's sending me a drink. After I drink it, we're gonna have a problem. I'm gonna drink it, but after I drink it, we're gonna have to have a talk.
Hey, you funny. So anyway, we talked about it, and after that, that's when we get the whole little interaction and conversation with Dion and the BMF Boys. We also get rip music being played by Angels dancing with her BMF outfit. And I already talked about everything with Dion and Shiloh. But then we see Javier in the club panicking, looking for Meech, as we find out that Loco was arrested in Mexico. And T is like, not our problem, but Meech says that's our family. Without him, without the cadet, we don't have our product. We can't do what we have to do. This stops all of the operation. I swear, if it's one thing or another. So they say we gotta go to Mexico, and then because I thought the episode was over, they send us to Mexico because we see the two of them in the middle of nowhere by themselves, as they are now in Mexico across the border, as their whole goal is to break Loco out of jail. I love that T puts the next threat on the table because he says the cartel runs the government. And Meech is like, nah, this is our time now. We got to do this. and even within the narration and everything T is saying, how the fuck are we going to get where, like, first of all, how the hell are they going to get to where they're at? I need to know, how did they get to where they're at? And T saying, like, every day is an adventure, but yet we're about to go on the most wild and dangerous ride of our life. So that's the end of the episode. But what the fuck?
They got these niggas about to break someone out of a Mexican jail.
I need to see this.
Dog. If this shit ain't becoming Fast and Furious, it is clearly. if The Rock better be coming as the cop to stop them at this point. Other than that, it's not making sense.
Listen, Gal Gadot got them across the border. Han's coming back. It's a wrap. They got 10-second cars.
Han and Jen are brother and sister.
Listen, they need 10-second cars to get through that jail, which has a 11-second occultation to look around. They got to hit those hairpins to break them out.
Corner Jones. And it's out.
So yeah. Anyway, with this episode, man, we got a lot, man. Dr. Montclair revealing he's engaged. After they done,
out of all the places,
Henry kills Blaze. Remy is killed. Jen relocates to LAPD, which I doubt they're going to give a spinoff. I think that's just it for her.
Yeah, that's it. And unfortunately,
that's it, man. That's it. We talked so much about the season in the beginning and everything, so I don't think we need to elaborate more. So I'll say this: you all get in the comments, let us know your thoughts about this entire season, the finale episode, and then most importantly, your predictions for the next season. Who do you want to see now join the BMF cast? I can say this now, based on previous track records. Whoever comes to the premieres ends up becoming a part of the show.
So Deshaun Watson,
Funny Marco. Wait, Chameleonaire was there?
Am I saying Chameleon?
Oh, I'm about to say
what? Shit, not Chameleonaire.
Yeah. I'm about to say what?
Shit. Oh, I kept on telling her she needs to be on BMF. So yeah, that would make the most. That would
work. Yeah,
that would make the most sense. Was there? It's a bunch of people who showed up. That would be good. Again, we know the goal for BMF is always to start.
Make predictions, sir. Predictions.
Smart strategy here. Well, the biggest prediction is going to be. Finally, we're going to probably see we move forward to closer to the 2000s with them, and what I mean by that is. That's when BMF is BMF. So there's no longer of them building. Now we got to see them maintaining. And I think that's what people want to see more than anything. This is where you get possibly the mentions of Jeezy, the Blue Da Vinci's, and things of this thing. The things that people know of BMF are about to start coming out in season 4. Yeah. After this Mexican adventure, because this shit here, if they break somebody out of a Mexican jail, you have a better opportunity of breaking someone out of a United States jail in the 90s than you did a Mexican jail. So if they break them out of Mexican jail and we don't hear Griselda or someone else being mad that they did it, I'm going to have questions. It's clearly that we understand the cartels run I just think that, again, with BMF, the scope is getting really big, and I'm wondering, do they need to rail it back in to ground it, or are they just going to embrace it and just go full out, which would be so much fun because we've never seen a show do that before, and say, you know what? yeah, this story is true, but to protect as many people as possible, we're just going to go out as outlandish as humanly possible with it.
Last prediction for me is I'm going to say that I feel like the production is going to turn a lot more into what Bad Boys 1 and 2 was under Michael Bay. I think they're going to give
Bad Boys 1 or Bad Boys 2. Those are not the same thing.
Well,
Bad Boys 1 was nice. Bad Boys 1 was like the first 2 seasons of BMF. Bad Boys 2 is as over the top as humanly possible.
I said once again, it's going to turn
1 and 2. That's why I said
1 and 2 under Michael Bay. That whole arc of it, which means like, yeah, they're going to take this Mexico thing, and it's going to be extremely over the top to the point that they're going to have the brothers. The brothers will absolutely turn into this measure of, I won't say buddy cop because that has some other, but essentially it is. They're going to have to comedic chops. Yeah, exactly. So
you see Meech working out, so clearly he bulking up for a reason.
That's sure.
And it's not for your season 3 or 4, whatever one that Joe know. So clearly that's the case. So maybe that is the case. It's to go as over the top as humanly possible, which I think
shirt off. The guns wide. Crazy. They're gonna do the back-to-back shots. Like all that's coming.
Oh, if I see that fucking Michael Bay pan shot in an episode of BMF, I'm gonna fucking lose it, Joe.
I put the bread on this happening.
Everybody know that Michael Bay pan shot. It's in every Michael Bay movie. If they give Meech and Terry that shot, that just lets me know then the Rock is next because there's no need for anyone else. But the other thing, play the role of the Rock.
The other thing too is beyond that, they're going to try to use as much as they can from Scarface as well too, which tells me there will be other over the top, very traumatized moments in this.
I think people need to always remember, and I know this is going to be an important element that people don't want to hear, but you need to hear. The closer we get to current time, the more shit can't be talked about. Understand that. The closer we get to current time, the most shit can't be talked about. So what you do is you go over the top with stuff that you can bring up.
Or they'll just keep throwing that disclaimer over and over in the beginning to ensure.
The disclaimer, OJ had a disclaimer. It didn't work for him. So yeah, eventually that disclaimer doesn't work.
His whole book was a disclaimer. It said, if I had done it,
this is how it happened. But that's what I mean. So I think eventually we'll get to the point where they're going to be like, hey, we give you the basic stuff, the stuff that you know. We know what BMF built. We understand the people they influenced. We understand the people that was with the crew. If we talk about that, that's fine. But we can't get into the nuance of certain things because what's the statute of limitations on everything?
7 years.
Not for murder.
Oh, I don't know. Is there?
There's not one. There's not one. So again, it's certain things you can't talk about, or even cases that gotta be a direct murder. It could be something that led to that. But I think this is where the point where you get to be more creative with your story. As long as you get to the end game, that's all people care about.
Yeah,
get to the end.
Created this season. So.
Yeah.
Anyway,
this season here was. I'm not gonna say it's great, and I'm never gonna say it's bad. But this season felt like a season that was made to build on the next season. I'm accustomed to seeing that in movies, where you see a setup like a Deadly Hallows Part 1, or like something that's made to set up a bigger story. But when you see them together, you fully understand what was happening.
Deadly Hallows, was that a Harry Potter reference?
Yes, it was. Yes, well, Deadly Hallows Part 1 and Deadly Hallows Part 2. It's 2 parts of Deadly Hallows, sir. So that's why I said this felt like a Deadly Hallows Part 1. It's a good story, but it's lots of setup.
Do you know that Fast X has a Part 1 and a Part 2?
Is that the one with Jason Momoa?
Yes.
So yeah, I couldn't get through it.
It just came out of the year of Part 1s and Part 2. Mission Impossible, Spider-Verse, and this. I think it's Spider-Verse.
But none of them as good as Deadly Hallows Part 1. That movie is good.
Anywho,
that's the comparison.
We will not have Fast and Furious slander in here.
That's the setup. All I'm saying is that's the setup. It felt like this entire season was a setup for season 4. Maybe. And when you get to see season 4, I think you'll get nuggets from season 3, and you'll be like, oh, that's why we got that. I'm just trying to give them credit as more than just them turning a page every season.
I would disagree because they all, you know how this network is. You never know who's getting the next season. But I'd say if they with them packaging up everything nicely here, if we were to come back at a different point, there's no rush. Because in Mexico, we know where the story ends. So in Mexico, they can have a blank canvas to do whatever the hell they want to do. Because what happens in Mexico has nothing to do with any bit of legality in the United States. That's one thing I know. There would not be no what they call it?
No, sir. We have an extradition treaty in Mexico. You ain't going but so far.
Not then. Not then.
No, it still exists, and there's no precursors for certain things. So you don't want to say we murdered this person and the Mexican authorities. Like, wait a minute.
You tell me when the cartel was like, yeah, we'll give them over. You don't forget who was running the government back then, as they mentioned. The cartel
will say we'll give them over. The cartel will say, hey, just bring it back here. Just drop them off for us. It's clearly they interrupted the wrong people's business.
Yeah. Anywho, folks, that's just going to do it for tonight. Y'all let us know y'all thoughts about tonight's episode, the entire season, and your predictions for season 4. And then we'll be back in June in just about a month. Just about a month.
It won't be a full
just
month
about a month. We'll be back for. We will be back. We will be back in 1 month for Power Book 2 Ghost, sir. Is what I'm getting at.
We got interviews coming up and all that's gonna be in May. That's why I said it won't be a month.
You know what I'm referencing. We will be back for the recap in a month. We don't know these other dates. We got all this other stuff that's coming. You know that.
We know. We already know what's gonna happen. They're gonna hate us anyway. The moment we start talking about premieres and stuff, you know, they're gonna be like, nigga, we not there. We don't want to hear about you all being there. I completely understand, but that's what's gonna happen a couple of weeks.
Once again, Power Book 2 Ghost, the final season, part 1 returns Friday, June 7th. We'll be back for that.
Live? And is Drew still gay?
Bye. We will see y'all then. Bye. I do this.